If a life can have a theme song, and I believe every worthwhile one has, mine is a religion, an obsession or a mania, or all of these, expressed in one word: individualism.
Founding fathers who established in the United States of America the first and only free society in history, and the economic system, which was the corollary of the American political system, was capitalism, the system of total, unregulated, laissez-faire capitalism. This was the basic principle of the American way of life, or the American political system. However, in practice, it has never yet been practiced. A total separation of government and economics had not been established from the first. It was implied in principle, but certain loopholes or contradictions were still allowed into the American setup and into the American Constitution, which permitted collectivist influences to undermine the American way of life, and today it is practically collapsing.
In a free society, nobody can become a monopolist or a dictator. The system itself, the free market, will destroy you.
How do you explain Mobil Oil, Exxon? How do you explain the prices that they're able to charge for it?
I think that they're stupid appeasers who get too little and put up with too much.
Who, the oil companies?
Yes.
You
now, yes, here you have to let me explain.
All right.
If President Carter's own policy admits that we need the oil company and that the lack of oil is a serious national crisis,
right,
which might lead to the stoppage of all industry, if that is what we need, by what right can we tell those men, go ahead and produce what we want, while we're insulting you, while we're trying to control your business, and while we're not leaving you that which you produced? Today, it's crudely obvious. If we need the oil companies, we have only one of two choices. Either we produce oil ourselves, and no government has ever done it or can do it, or we have to accept the oil companies' terms, pay them whatever they can get. The more they get, the more credit to them, because that means the country needs it and pays them. They produce something needed by the people. And we must say thank you, instead of putting or proposing to put a tax on them in order to give the money to the government, who does nothing. The government doesn't contribute anything except impediments.
All right. But if we allow the oil companies to have the power which you say has come to them because we need the oil, it's a question of supply and demand.
Yes.
So if we approach this laissez-faire, as I think you would like us to, free of government intervention,
right,
free of all the force and the regulation and the controls which you abhor.
Right.
All right. Now we've got Mr. Gigantic Oil Baron saying $2.50 a barrel, a gallon. Now, here's what happens. The blue-collar guy who's trying to make a living and feed his kids can't buy gas for his truck, can't possibly survive in the free marketplace, and suddenly he's on welfare, and he's got to go for a handout, another feature of government that you abhor. You can't have it both ways.
But all this is economic fallacies. To begin with, nobody in a free society, now we're talking about a free market,
yeah,
in which the government doesn't interfere, nobody can become a monopolist. All monopolies are created by a special privilege for government. It's only by an act of government that you can keep competitors out of your field. Therefore, you couldn't become that kind of monopoly. The power you hold as an industrialist is not the power to use force. It's the power of producing something of value.
That people want.
And it's the people who literally control you, because every purchase is a vote in the favor of some businessmen and in a way against others. It's the public who decides what they want to buy and what they pass up. If, using your examples, you became this powerful tycoon economically, but you cannot force anybody to deal with you, and you cannot force competitors out of your field, then every smaller man would be in that field because you would have established a price way above the market. You might last months, if that.
So in other words, if I tried to be Mr. Big and charge outrageously high prices for gasoline,
broke.
I would go broke in your view, because in your leave them alone and let competition handle it approach to civilization, somebody with a better mousetrap, pardon my mixed metaphor.
No, that's a very good one.
All right, would come along and undercut me.
That's right. It isn't incidentally just my view. That is history. There are people who have tried to corner the market repeatedly, and the result was that they went broke.
Let us all make a sacrifice. Let's lower our standard of living, and we'll all be living better. Now, is that a proper philosophy to tell a country that has pride and self-esteem? At one time, with all the faults in American intellectual equipment, and there were a lot of faults, at least people were taught pride in their own country and in the good aspects, the great achievements of this country. Today, you're supposed to apologize to every naked savage anywhere on the globe because you are more prosperous, because you've earned your money. You have to feel guilty and apologize for it, while he hasn't and doesn't intend to learn from you. He just wants your money. That's what we're being taught.
You realize, of course, that your critics suggest that this is a pie-in-the-sky, unpractical notion that you're offering to us, and that it sounds wonderful as you gather with the intellectuals at some university, but it doesn't work out on the street.
Quite the opposite. It's in the universities that it doesn't work, because all the leftist ideas and all the misrepresentation of capitalism come from leftist liberal professors.
I feel that this country is being destroyed by its philosophy, specifically by its universities. The most dangerous thing in this country today are the universities, because they're teaching the kind of ideas that would necessarily have to lead to the destruction of this country. I think that the American people is too good for that kind of program. You notice that the people are turning to the right. That's a very healthy sign, but there is no leadership on the right. There is no intellectual leadership. There are no ideas. And it's very possible that the people will be defeated for lack of proper intellectual leadership. However, the basic premises...
Excuse me, but then you don't mean Harvard intellectual leadership or Yale intellectual leadership.
I mean a Harvard that would be preaching American ideas, more specifically reason, individualism, capitalism.
The government's proper function is only to protect your rights, and that means to protect men from those who initiate force. So the government protects the peace, internal peace, that means the policemen. The government runs the Army and Navy, protection from outside forces, and law courts, so that citizens who disagree can settle their disputes peacefully. That's the only functions of government.
All right. So you like an individual who stands up, man or woman, does what he, she wants to do. You have literally liberated millions of people around the world by merely saying to them in your novels, you want to do it? Do it.
That's exactly, that's true. And if I help them, I'm delighted.
If you separate the government from economics, if you do not regulate production and trade, you will have peaceful cooperation and harmony and justice among men.